Hi everyone, welcome back to Dynamotor TCG, and today we're going to be doing some expanded battles. Decided to break out Gardevoir for today. So here's the list, we'll look at it real quick before we jump into some matches. So we start with the pretty standard 4-2-3 Gardevoir line. I'm playing 2 Gallade because of the presence of Zoroark in expanded. Gallade is also helpful against Night March because it's a 1-prize attacker, so you're not giving up 2-prize knockouts from your Gardevoir. So Gallade has that ability, Premonition, that lets you look at the top 5 cards and put them back on the top of your deck in any order. This helps a lot when paired with Octillery, because then you can choose exactly what you draw. It's almost like a lesser teammates. So back to Gallade. It also has the attack sensitive blade. If you played a supporter during your turn, it does 70 more damage. So 130, and that can be boosted to 160 with Choice Band, or if they have weakness to fighting, which is a pretty good amount of expanded right now. Sylvally and Zoroark especially, then that's 260. So just some minor things. In terms of Kirlias, I think this is the best Kirlia for expanded. Buzzwole isn't a huge presence in expanded, which means the psychic type Kirlias aren't really necessary. And this Kirlia right here, it has that first attack Calm Mind that lets you heal 30 from this Pokemon. Really big against Trevenant. If you pair up against any Trevenants, you basically can't use Rare Candy, so you have to evolve up through these Kirlias. And you can actually send one of these active and just heal that 30 damage from Silent Fear, so that way they can't take the knockout ideally. And let's see, going through the Ralts. Now, ideally, we would be playing 3 of these Ralts, maybe even 4. But in real life, I only have 1, so I'm just playing 1 right now. And then the other Ralts, I think this one's probably best, the Draining Kiss, for the same reason that it heals 10 damage, which is going to do a lot more than Smack, for example. Even though the Psychic Ralts is great in Standard, if you attach a Choice Band, hit Buzzwole for 100. But Buzzwole's not that big, so let's move on to the rest of the Pokemon line. Gardevoir GX obviously has that Secret Spring ability that lets you attach a Fairy Energy card from your hand in addition to your attachment for the turn. So you can just stack energy on your Gardevoirs. It's one of the most powerful cards in Standard and Expanded. And that's where the Infinite Force attack comes in. 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So if they have 2 on them, you can start with a fresh Gardevoir, promote it, double colorless, Secret Spring a Fairy, attach a Choice Band, and you're hitting 180 off of a fresh Gardevoir. So it's extremely powerful, only gets more powerful the more Gardevoir you set up. Oh, and then of course, very important is the GX attack, Twilight GX. So we shuffle 10 cards from our discard pile into our deck, and that's a huge deal against decks like Trevenant, discarding your energy, really any deck that discards your energy. It can be big in the mirror match as well. You don't want to go in too strong with Gardevoir early, because if you put a bunch of energy on Gardevoir, they need less on their own Gardevoir to one-shot you. So late game, if you need like a Guzma for the win, if you need more energy, you promote a Gardevoir Twilight GX just for that, with that 1 Fairy energy so they can't knock you out. And then you shuffle back all the resources you need to hopefully win the next turn. So the rest of the Pokemon, we'll just go through them real quick. Really vital is 3 Tapu Lele GX. Has that Wonder Tag ability that lets you search your deck for a supporter when you play it onto your bench. So I mean, we have a lot of one-up supporters in this deck. We have Acerola, Bridget, Chorus, Guzma, Lysander, Teammates. All of those are really vital on the turns that we need them. And Tapu Lele helps us get those specific supporters, or just things like Sycamore or End to draw a new hand when we need them. Also really vital to the deck is Alolan Vulpix. It has that beacon attack for no energy, so even if you start with something else, you can attach to the active retreat and then beacon for free. And it lets you search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon, so that helps you get Octilleries in play. If you have Rare Candy, it helps you get Gardevoir, Gallade, another Tapu Lele if you have a dead hand. It's a really important card, helps you set up so much. And if they don't knock it out, you basically have free reign to, set up your entire board. 2 beacons in combination with Teammates, with computer search, with all of the consistency that comes with the expanded format. If you're allowed to get 2 beacons off, you'll be set up for the entire game. So last 2 Pokemon here. Sudowoodo has that roadblock ability. Your opponent can't have more than 4 benched Pokemon, and if they do, they have to discard down to 4. So this is pretty much only in the deck for Zoroark GX, which plays Skyfield. Here, actually, we can take a look at Zoroark real quick. Zoroark GX that does 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in play. So if you have Skyfield out, which lets you hit 8 bench Pokemon, so that's 8 on the bench plus the Zoroark in the active, 180 damage. Plus they have Choice Band, so they can hit up to 210. So that's a really big deal. It also helps to limit their Lycanroc plays if they play Lycanroc. So that's why we play the Sudowoodo, just to make them deal with that if they want to do any substantial damage to us. And if they're choosing to Lysander or Guzma out the Sudowoodo, that means that they're not knocking out a real threat. So that's a big deal for us, especially since we play 2 Rescue Stretcher. If we really need to, we can just get that Sudowoodo right back. Computer search, Teammates, all of these things help us get into the Rescue Stretchers when we need them. And the last Pokemon, Oricorio, with that Supernatural Dance attack. For each Pokemon in your opponent's discard pile, put 1 damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. And it's important that it's placing damage counters rather than doing damage, because that gets around Magikarp's ability, actually. Let's pull up Magikarp. Here it is. So Magikarp, as part of the Gyarados deck that top-aided San Jose Regionals, I actually faced up against Gyarados early on. I wasn't playing Oricorio in my Gardevoir list, so he was able to take that game. But Submerge prevents damage done to Magikarp. But if they have 1 or 2 Pokemon in their discard, for example against Gyarados, you can knock out 1 or 2 of their Magikarps with Supernatural Dance. And it's also just a 1 prize attacker that you're promoting, so that really helps the prize trade. And of course, the much bigger reason it's in the deck is for Night March. Night March, which plays those really low HP Pokemon. Joltik has 30 HP, Pumpkaboo 60 HP. It also plays Shaman EX, which only has 110. So if they put 11 Pokemon in their discard at any point, you promote Oricorio and you take 2 prizes. A lot of Night March players don't play around Oricorio. And I think that's a lot of the skill with Night March, and the reason that the players who consistently place well with it are already really skilled top players is because it is really difficult to play around Oricorio and Karen and still execute your strategy. So against average, sometimes even above average or unlucky, above average players who find themselves in an unlucky situation where they have to discard 11 or more, just Supernatural Dance, and then double Rescue Stretcher to get it right back. If they have their Stadium in play, it means you don't even have to attach an energy to Oricorio, so super busted. After playing Guardy at San Jose and really missing this Oricorio in 3 of my rounds, actually, I wouldn't play the deck without it. So going through the trainers now, it's really basic. Computer search, search your deck for any card, discard 2 cards, and then search your deck for any card. Just super great consistency boost. This is the only A-spec I would ever play in Gardevoir. It's a stage 2 deck, it needs to set up, you need computer search. 2 Field Blower to get rid of tools and stadiums. We don't play any stadiums of our own. 4 Rare Candy because we need to get up into those Gardevoirs and Gallades. 2 Rescue Stretcher, I talked about that already. Standard, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 VS Seeker. And now let's move on to the supporters. We have 1 Acerola. And the Acerola we can reuse with VS Seeker if we need to, but basically it helps so much in the mirror match. Without it, I don't think we could win the mirror match. But what it allows us to do is just go in easy with a Gardevoir, just attaching 1 or 2 energy, maybe a choice band, then pick it all back up, promote a fresh Gardevoir, and take a KO. It also helps in situations where we're stuck active, or maybe they've done a lot of damage to something, we want to clear it off our board. It helps against Trevenant as well. Bridget, super important card in the deck. I would consider playing 2, but I really don't know where to find the space. I'll play around with it a bit more, see if I can fit a second. But Bridget, search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon. It's usually 1 to 2 Ralts, maybe Remoraid, maybe Alolan Vulpix, maybe Sudowoodo, depending on the matchup. But you always want at least 2 Ralts out on the first turn of every game, so you can start evolving those up. Also in the deck we have Colress, just for a shuffle draw that's in many cases better than N. Guzma and Lysander to bring their benched Pokemon active. And then we have N. So each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck, and then draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards. So 2N is the perfect number, I think. You don't want to go higher than 2N because late game you really need to draw into better supporters. But 2N's a good amount with the VS Seekers to be able to disrupt them when necessary or get a fresh 6 early game. And then of course the most consistent strong supporter in either standard or expanded, and that's Professor Sycamore or Professor Juniper if you prefer. So discard your hand and draw 7 cards. We also have Teammates. This is our last one. Teammates, super vital for the deck. You can play this card only if your opponent took a knockout during their last turn. And you search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. So that is any 2 cards you want. It's so valuable. They take a knockout on an Alolan Vulpix at the start of the game, for example. And then you promote your Ralts. Whoop. And then you promote your Ralts and Teammates for Rare Candy Gardevoir. You have a Gardevoir set up. You could honestly up it to 2 because of how important this supporter is in the deck. And then finally we have 2 Choice Band, pretty standard. And then 4 Double Colorless and 7 Fairy Energy. Now I'd like to up it to 8 Fairy Energy, but I had to make some cuts to include the Octillery line over Oranguru, so that was one of the cuts, the 8th Fairy Energy. And there's also one more exclusion I decided to make, which is Wonder Energy. So Wonder Energy is a special energy that can only be attached to Fairy Pokemon. and it says prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks except damage done to the fairy Pokemon this card is attached to. So that means it prevents Trevenant's Silent Fear, because that's an effect of an attack rather than doing damage. It prevents Darkrai GX's GX attack, which I'm forgetting the name of right now. Dark Call GX? Dead End GX. It prevents Dead End GX from taking a knockout. It prevents Turtonator's Shell Trap from doing damage. But overall, I don't think it's necessary anymore, especially because Trevenant, which is apparently seeing a resurgence, now plays 3 to 4 Enhanced Hammer. So it's more than likely that they would just take that off right away. I think if you were to add another energy, it's better to just do the 8th Fairy, so you can have that consistency for Secret Spring. So let's go into a quick match with this. Let me actually turn that on first. Alright, looking for an opponent. So Gardevoir, it's just one of those really inherently strong decks. Both standard, expanded. Just the card itself is so good, and it has so much support in expanded that in most games where you're able to set up, you are going to win the game. So let's see if we can find an opponent, show off a bit of the deck, how it works. Alright, so we're up against Eric Hyde with a Water Dark Psychic deck. So I'm not sure exactly what we'll be playing against, but hope for the best. Nice. Tails never fails. And okay, unfortunately we had to start Tapu Lele, but that's alright. We have an M. This will happen when you're playing 3 Lele. Okay. Alright, we're playing against Sableye. Now this is a really interesting matchup. I drew the Ultra Ball, so I think I want to go for the Bridget this turn. We're going to discard Chorus and a Rescue Stretcher. Okay, so the Bridget's in our deck. We are only missing 2 energy, which is not bad. Acerola's in the deck. Field Blowers are in the deck. Okay. So we will Wonder Tag for the Bridget. And let's see. Octillery is in the deck. I definitely want to get 2 Ralts out. And then the third option, I can either go with Vulpix or Remoraid, but I think with Sableye I need to start going in pretty soon. So I'm going to go with the less passive play and choose Remoraid. And then we will pass. So next turn we have the Rare Candy Gardevoir and an N. Hopefully we're able to hit 2 energy off of this, because if so... Okay, yeah, so does Sableye Garbodor. There's a chance it was something like a dark deck with a Sableye tech, but... A huge attack in this matchup is Twilight GX. Shuffle back our energy into our deck. Makes it significantly harder for them to deck us out. So we have the rare candy Gardevoir, so we'll do that. And he played the single puzzle, which is a pretty bad sign for him, so I'm actually going to go for the chorus. Okay, so that's not ideal, but it's not terrible either. We hit the Curlia. And I'm actually just going to pass. We don't want to secret spring that fairy energy onto the Lolo. Because if we do, and he Lysanders, for example, okay. Now, how many items have we used? 4. So I'm going to evolve up into Gallade because we have a pretty dead hand. Let's Premonition the top 5. I'm going to take an Ultra Ball. I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter. We're going to Ultra Ball for Tapu Lele. So going into his turn, it'll do 120 damage. Then 150 coming back. I'm going to keep the Field Blower, and then we will just pass again. Alright, so we've drawn the Ultra Ball. Let's get rid of Sudowoodo and Oricorio. Neither of them is going to be useful in this matchup. Okay, so we'll get the Tapu Lele. And I hadn't actually considered, but we could go for the Acerola here. So we have 5 items. You know, I don't really mind if he takes some prizes. It just makes ends more effective against him. So I'm just going to get a Sycamore. I don't want to end his hand away. And I don't mind too much getting rid of what I have since the second Field Blower is in the deck. So we'll start with that. Then we'll Secret Spring onto the Tapu Lele. And let's Sycamore. Okay, perfect. So we'll retreat into Gallade, attach here. We can Premonition one more time. And next turn, let's get another double colorless, just in case he discards the one we have. Then we can get Ultra Ball via Seeker. Alright, and our first prize. So as expected, promoting the Trashalanche, but he doesn't have an energy. You know, I'm still scared that he gets the Garbotoxin, but I think it's probably best if I attach the double colorless there, and then we via Seeker for a Chorus. So that way we've played our supporter, it's not refreshing his hand, and we're getting 8 cards. And perfect, we drew the Octillery, that's really nice. We have a big hand now, but there's no guarantee we will later on. Before you Secret Spring, we can Premonition. We probably want that Fairy Energy up top. And yeah, Ultra Ball and Sycamore aren't really going to be useful for us. So now we can Secret Spring to the Gardevoir and take a knockout. Alright, so it looks like he's going to be able to Junk Hunt this turn. Trainer's Mail, Laser. So he still has a pretty dead hand. I don't actually mind just attaching this here. It's Premonition one more time. Yeah, we can take the computer search. And because we won't actually be getting the knockout with Sensitive Blade, I'm going to retreat into Gardevoir. And we can just start going in with Gardevoir. So heads on the Crushing Hammer, which is unfortunate. And let's see what the Trainer's Mail gets him. Flare Grunt. A Tapu Fini GX. That's interesting. Well, we need a Fairy Energy this turn. How many are in the discard? 3 in the discard. So let's computer search. We can get rid of let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This will put us up to 9. Let's get rid of a rare candy and a Ralts. And go get that fairy energy. So that's important to note. We only have 2 fairy energy left in the deck. I guess we can put the choice band on the active. Forces him to have an energy in order to Tapu Storm. Okay, so there's another energy. We can get the... Do we have a VS Seeker? No. VS Seeker, Ultra Ball. And we'll Infinite Force for the knockout. Perfect. So that double colorless means that if he doesn't Tapu Storm this turn, we have the win. Wow, well played. One, two, three, four, 5. So I guess we'll Premonition. And put the VS Seeker on top. The rest isn't very important. And we can just Infinite Force for 120. And that way, if he doesn't have the energy, that should be the game. Acerola. Look at that. And I imagine he'll just pass me. Okay, yeah, there's the victory screen. He drew dead all game. Normally how that match would play out is he would continue to junk hunt. Sometimes I would shuffle it away with N, and then late game Twilight GX put back all of my energy pretty much that he had discarded and get the win that way. So that was one game. It went alright, didn't show off a perfect matchup, but it did show off pretty well how the Gardevoir deck functions. So with that, I will leave it for this video. Thank you all so much for joining, and come back next time.